talked about it, Richard Nixon, then Ronald Reagan as governor and Ronald Reagan as a candidate in the late 1970s. And he'd say, I don't want George Herbert Walker Bush on my ticket. He's part of that Trilateral Commission and that Bilderberg. We've got to actually have clips of that. But then they would just demonize anybody that talked about it like it didn't exist. And this is just one of the top shadowy room events, but it's Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg, and then they have different roundtable groups that interface as well, like the Royal Institute of International Affairs and the Council on Foreign Relations. But it's the same few hundred people, and they are technocrats, they are globalists, they are eugenicists, they are anti-humans, they are post-industrialists. And they'll control left, right, fascist, Muslim, they don't care, to get their game plan. And so we're forcing this out in the open. It was about a decade ago that Drudge Report started linking to our articles covering Bilderberg every year, and media would go, look at Drudge linking to imaginary stuff. It's not happening. Remember that? So I don't mean to sycophantically plug Drudge every day on a subject, but we got to give credit where credit's due, like General Dempsey saying 4 years ago, we're not going to be part of an attack on the Syrians for Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Just not going to happen. And that's what's going on, is we're just finding our conscience and saying no. And they've always denied this stuff's going on. We're forcing it out in the open to have a real discussion. Yes, Obama, you're shipping illegals in and legalizing them and letting them have TB and putting them in school next to kids. You're out of control. Oh, no, we're not. No, we're not. Yes, you are. Here it is in the Associated Press. We're forcing the issue. Rob, dude, tell me what you found inside the hotel, what else you're going to be covering, when you expect them to throw you out. Obviously, it kicks off officially Thursday, but they usually kick people out now on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm thrown out a whole 4 or 5 days before. I'm not even allowed in the hotel. Rob, have you had any issues?
We have not had any issues yet. I was in the lobby earlier today and talking with Luke Rudowski and Dan Dix, and the front counter guy was leering at us. And that's about as bad as it's gotten so far. We have been filming. We actually have a video coming up of shots from inside the hotel showing the indoor pool of this tanning bed that looks like some sort of weird oxygenation chamber that probably Herr Kissinger will be using. But going back to this triangle, and I see you have that logo behind you. Somebody made a triangle with a circle in it. There's a good shot of it right there from up where we're at. This is the courtyard, actually, from where the presidential palace is. The presidential palace is off to your left on the screen right there. The former presidential palace of the German king. And then right across is where the Bilderbergs will be meeting tomorrow. They'll start tomorrow at noon. They're supposed to start kicking us out. So that's what we're planning. I haven't had any issues since then. I've walked around and filmed. We went in the courtyard, and they're actually erecting some shade structure for. I thought they were building a stage for a performance, and I asked one of the waiters. I said, "What's going on here?" I said, "They're building a tent, a big tent for everybody." So it's this weird looking dome tent. But there's a lot of history. I
gotta say though, you gotta love your job sometimes. But Germany is just beautiful. Austria last year.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me tell you, Alex, Germany is blown away my expectations. Here's the courtyard right across the street. This is where the king used to have animal shows and circuses and parties. Pan over that way, Josh. Look at that. I mean, it's just amazing. This is surrounded by like a giant castle wall.
It was like Versailles.
Climb up. Yeah. I don't know. Somebody might get some drone shots in a bit from this vantage point. I don't know if that's going to happen though. Be a good spot to launch one.
Help me, I'm weak.
so that's what we're expecting. I'm going to go meet with a guy who I interviewed yesterday. He's an Austrian. He was passing out flyers last night to people, and he got a ticket just for passing out flyers talking about illegal immigration.
Wow. So again, tickets or arrest, that's admitted. This is the so-called free speech of the left. Now coming here back in 70 seconds with Rob Dew. Then we interviewed the expert on radical Islam. Coming up, you want him, you've got him. Going back to Rob Dew and Josh Owens, you guys are doing an amazing job. I mean, I just want to let you go so you can get work done. Your Skype's degrading there as you're there in Dresden outside the old presidential palace, overlooking the hotel where Bilderberg is going to be meeting this year. But get back to the censorship, Rob Dew. They're arresting people that criticize the open borders. They're trying to say no marches are allowed, but tens of thousands of Germans in different towns every day just ignore it. You covered a march yesterday. Looked like it had 20,000 people. I don't know. It was huge. But you said you actually witnessed. I hope you got it on tape. If you didn't understand. Or you talked to somebody that was given a ticket for handing out flyers exposing that the sovereignty is being destroyed. I mean, is there any free speech left under the pig, goblin, Bilderberg daughter, East German Merkel.
Exactly. Yeah. He rolled the ticket out and he showed it to me. I couldn't read it, and I had a guy next to me. I said, "What does this say?" So, well, he was given a ticket for passing out flyers.
Did you get a video of this? This is sensational.
I do. It's going up. We're gonna have that out, and in fact, we're gonna go meet him again to talk more about it because he kind of left that as an aside on this short little video. I'm like, "Oh, this is big news. You don't understand."
Yeah, they're just used to it. They're just used to being given a ticket for handing out a flyer.
They're used to being stomped down. But here's also something I want to talk about, Alex. Lindsey Graham is going to be here. We have a sitting senator that's going to be at the Bilderberg meeting. That's got to violate several laws.
The Logan Act. Oh, Lindsey Graham loves you-know-whatting in our face.
Oh, yeah. So it'll be interesting. I hope I can ask him a question or two. How does he feel about violating the Logan Act? Is he going to be in charge of picking the male escorts for this year's Bilderberg? You know, there's a lot of questions I have for Lindsey Graham and why he's even here. He's probably here to help steamroll or submarine Trump's candidacy, I think. I think that's the main reason they're going to come up with an anti-Trump plan. They've got a lot of big backers. They always had the big money guys showing up here, all these financial guys. Vernon Jordan's going to be here, James Johnson. So I'm sure they're going to be collating a plan to get rid of the Trump presidency.
And you know what else is on it? Is we have sources connected to the inside. Getting that internet ID is their #1 deal. Cashless society, get ready for that. They're going to have Zuckerberg try to quarterback that. Zuckerberg goes to the meetings as well. I haven't scanned the whole list yet. It just came out. Is Zuckerberg on the list this year?
I didn't see him, but Eric Schmidt is here, Peter Thiel, and the head of LinkedIn. I forget his name right off the top of my head, but he's also here.
Oh, Sean Parker. Look,
well, I don't think that's his name. I would have recognized him. No, the head of LinkedIn, which is the business network.
They had just put Sean Parker on screen. They just put Sean Parker on screen.
Oh, they put Sean Parker on screen. Okay. Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see who shows up. We'll be here tomorrow. We're going to have people also at the airport waiting to see who pops in. So it's going to start getting lively tomorrow here in Dresden, Germany. And who knows what it's going to be like now that the military is coming in to run security, because these guys don't play games. And what I heard last year is if you think the Austrian military is bad, wait till you deal with the Germans, because they're 10 times worse. So we're going to find out in the next few days of what's going to go on here in Dresden, Germany.
Yeah, well, these are imperious traitors when they try to violate Germans' free speech. This is what Hitler did. And if the Germans don't recognize how much trouble they're in, they're crazy. They do, though. The French have headlines in AFP, like, French scared as shroud of tyranny lowers, free speech banned, civil emergency, for the darling little Muslims that are being brought in.
It's all happening, and people need to get out here. If you're living anywhere in Germany, get out here now.
I've got a guest coming on for about 40 minutes, and I'm airing a special Tim Kennedy interview that's 4 minutes long. But if you'd like to pop in right at the end of the show, if something else is developed, do that. If not, go get all those uploads up. Great job. Right. How do folks follow you on Twitter, dude?
Yeah, it's at Dews News, DEWSNEWZ. And you can find me there, and there you go.
Stay there. We have seen 5 million Muslims, most of the military-age men, brought in from war-torn zones where Saudi Arabia in the last 5 years has funded a multi-million-person invasion of Syria. Most of them women and children as camp followers like the Huns behind the men, killing even their fellow Sunnis and Shiites and Christians. For every several thousand allowed in, almost all of them are Wahhabist. You might have one Christian, it's 0.7%. And Obama tells jokes and says, we got to let everybody in, not just the Christians, when he knows that, well, Syria was over 20% Christian, not now. They've killed hundreds of thousands of them. I'm somebody that was against all these wars in the Middle East because I knew it was part of a plan to destabilize it. Now the Bilderberg Group and globalist groups have funded the Arab Spring. Why is Merkel bringing in millions of these people? Why is Hollande? Why are the leaders of Sweden? We have our reporters in Germany right now filing a video report where citizens out handing out flyers at marches the German government has said is illegal, saying don't open our borders to these people, writing them tickets for handing out literature. Why are our governments doing this? Now, our guest, folks have wanted him on for years. I don't know why it's taken so long, as I've read several of his books. Dr. Bill Warner has been a physicist, a businessman, and professor. And I'm not going to go over his whole background, but he is now the director of the Center for the Study of Political Islam. And I've read some of his books, seen some of his talks. It's dead on from just my mainline study of history. But it's not well known by the public. Now, he could go through a whole history treatise with us. You can go to his website and do that or read his books. But I'd like to just get the short and skinny of it, why he thinks the elite is doing this, are doing this, where it's going, who's really in control of Islam right now, why would our elites ally with the most radical form out of Saudi Arabia, the Wahhabi, Sunni group, and how do we counter this and respond to it? Why is the left so in love with it? I mean, you get some college student might have raped a woman, 6 months isn't enough. Okay, fine. But then you got Muslims murdering their wives here in the U.S. and they get light sentences because, oh, it's their culture. What's going on? Why is the establishment so in love with it? So there's a long history of it, but he argues there was no golden age. Like Lord Monckton says, there was some times when Islam, was less destructive than some of the stuff in medieval Europe. Regardless, it's destructive now, and radical Islam is the new Islam, or was the old Islam, and is dominating Islam. So I think the debate is over. So what is the establishment going to do when there's more terror attacks in Europe and the West? Well, we know they're going to take our liberties, saying it's our fault that the Muslims attacked us. And so he joins us now via video Skype, politicalislam.com. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Warner.
Glad to be here.
Okay, we got about 30, 40 minutes here. Try to educate folks, try to educate myself. Give us the Dr. Bill Warner boil down.
Well, first off, everything that Islam does is supremely logical if you understand their logic. And their logic is laid out in the Quran, and it's laid out also in the words of Muhammad. And once you understand who Muhammad is and who Allah is, everything makes sense. The reason it's so confusing is, you see, there's two different Muhammads and two different Qurans. So Islam is based on dualism. It's always got a nice, peaceful side and a jihad side. And this is due to the very nature of who Muhammad was. I'll give you a real brief summary of his life. He preached the religion for 13 years in Mecca and converted 150 Arabs to Islam. They drove him out of Mecca because he brought in dissension. Sound familiar? And he went to Medina, where he became a jihadist and a politician. He had 100 acts of jihad in the last 9 years of his life. Not 101, not 99, but 100. But when he died, every Arab was a Muslim. So here, what do we have? We have a peaceful preacher, Muhammad, and then we have a vicious jihadist. But who was successful? It was the jihad that was successful, and it was the politics that was successful. So this dualistic nature of Muhammad is reflected in the Quran. And so this is why you hear people say, oh, no, Islam is the religion of peace. Well, yes, it is, but it's the politics of jihad. So this dualism allows Islam to always come off exactly how it needs to be. Nice for the nice people and not nice for the not nice people. So that's sort of the doctrine is at the basis of the confusion.
Fundamentally deceptive. Break it down for us more.
Yes. As a matter of fact, there are many hadith which advocate deception. Who will kill Ashraf, who has offended Allah and his prophet? This is a hadith. I will, Muhammad, but I will need to deceive him. May I do so? Yes, deceive him. Now, these are the words of Muhammad, so these are doctrinal words. There are 12 verses in the Quran which say that a Muslim is never the true friend of a kafir. I'm a kafir, and I suspect you are too. So here we have, you can be friendly, but you're not actually a friend. So this is, once again, the threat of deception. But it also explains why we see that we have vicious jihadists, and then we have Ahmed, who works down at the fruit market, is a nice kind of guy. Which one's the real Muslim? Yes, they're both real Muslims.
You've got the floor.
Okay. So now, why is all this so hard to understand? Because what has happened is that our intellectual class, the universities, have decided to abandon reason and instead become politically correct. One of the greatest tragedies we have in our culture today is the fact that, well, let me give you an example. I gave a talk in North Carolina, and a president of a local community college said, this man is unbalanced, maybe, but he should never be allowed to speak. What do we have here? We have the president of a college saying that ideas should not be debated, but instead should just be suppressed. So this is what our root problem is we're giving up what is the cornerstone of our civilization, which is critical thought. I mean, Alex, once we throw our critical thought out and we have nothing in the world but ideological propaganda, we're already in the sluice. So our big problem is we've given up rational thought. But my guess, this is no news to you.
And all over the world, they are banning so-called liberal democracies like Germany, even criticizing open borders, are saying mild things